Hello and welcome to the Beautiful Things podcast. This is podcast number 24. My name's Claire and I'm your host for today. And firstly, I'd like to welcome back all my existing viewers, all of you who subscribe, and thank you very much for all your thumbs up and lots of lovely comments. If you're new to the podcast, then welcome and thank you for choosing to check me out. So I'm going to get started today with an FO. So here they are, my lovely stripy rib socks that I showed you almost finished in the last episode. Now these are a simple vanilla sock. I have made the pattern up. It's a combination of all sorts of different things. There's roughly 14 rows of 2x2 rib at the top. I cast on 64 stitches, and for the leg I knitted 8 rows, and every 8th row I put a purl row in, just as a bit of an experiment to give it a bit of texture. Now, I'll see if you can see this. Now, it does work. It looks quite nice. But where I magic loop, you can see the join is not great. So I'm not amazingly happy with that, and I don't think I'll do it again. But just as a bit of fun, it was worth doing. The heel is a standard heel flap and gusset, and I use the Winwick Mum heel pattern for that. The foot is just standard Winwick Mums, and the toe is Mina Phillip, the Knitting Expats rounded toe. So it's a combination of all sorts, and I do think that I am almost there with my perfect vanilla sock. So you may remember the last ones I made on a 2.5 needle, and I put a heel flap and gusset in, and they fitted really quite nicely. These ones I tested a 2.25 needle, but I do think they're a little bit too small. So I think I've got my heel and my foot and my toe sorted. I think my leg needs to be a little bit longer, and I am going to try a 2x1 or a 1x1 twisted rib on my next pair for the cuff, and I hope then I will have perfected my perfect vanilla sock pattern for myself, but we shall see. Now these were going to go into the box for the gift-along. Now for those of you who are new to the podcast, the gift-along is a year-long craft-along that I'm running, where you make a little gift or 2 or 3 every month and you pop them in a box, and come December you should have at least 12 gifts ready to give to people at Christmas. And these socks were going to go in there. However, there is a mistake in them. One that I didn't notice till I was into the foot, and I really couldn't be bothered to go back and do again. So this one, I knitted down the leg and I got to here, ready to start my heel flap. And as you'll see, I did a purl row here, and then I started my heel flap. This one, I knitted down, and I haven't done my purl row, and I've started my heel flap. So this one has a purl row running along the bottom and the top of the heel, and this one doesn't. It really doesn't matter for myself, just for everyday wear. These are going to be just fine, but it does mean they can't go into the gift-along box. But even so, it is my second pair of socks for the year. I am not officially entering them into the box of socks KAL, because quite frankly, I have not got time to knit 12 pairs of socks in a year. But I do really think those of you who do, well done. You deserve a massive thumbs up for having the determination to succeed with that knit along. So well done. Okay, so now we're going to move on to what's on my needles, and I have been knitting furiously on my Enchanted Mesa jumper, and I am absolutely loving the way that it's working up. So it lives in this bag. This is my Amsterdam bag that I made with beautiful fabric from So Scrumptious. This is my own personal design for a sweater bag, and it's ginormous, as you can see, but it's absolutely perfect when you've got a project like the Enchanted Mesa, which is a big jumper and involves an awful lot of yarn. It's perfect for a Stephen West project, because you can also fit all of your spare balls, your pattern and everything else in. So I'm going to be careful taking it out. I am at the stage now where I'm just about to change to a different colour, so I haven't got any balls attached, which is really handy. It's easier to be able to show you. Now, last time I showed this to you, I just started working on the body. I'm just going to roll the KAL down so you can get an idea of it. So there's the KAL. We've got the top short row section here, which I think I showed you last time. And then I think I was about here on the body. So you can see I've worked all the way down. I've worked all my stripes, split for my other sleeve, and I'm going to put this up here. It's the easiest way to show you. And then I've worked the bottom short row section, and I finished that last night. So you can see this bit is 2 fingering weight yarns held double to make this really lovely squishy garter stitch. I thought that was a hole then, but it's not, it's just a little pulled stitch. And the 2 yarns that I used for that were these. Now this is a Kettle Yarn Company fingering weights that I bought at Wild and Woolly, and this is what's left now. Gosh, it's not much left of my Undercover Otter Silver Bullet. So I used those held double, and there's still plenty left there that I can knit into the sleeve, so I'm pleased with that. So this section now, obviously it's a paid for pattern, so I'm not going to tell you too much about it. There should now just be another 4 rows on the bottom, and that's the jumper finished. But the pattern does say you can knit longer if you want to. I did knit longer on my last Enchanted Mesa, but I still don't think I knit long enough, quite frankly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit probably a good 8 or 9 rows, if not more, onto the bottom of this, and then I'm going to put it onto a long cable and try it on, just to get a feel. I want it to be an oversized sloppy 80s style jumper, so it needs to have a good amount of length in it and not be too clingy. So we're back in the conservatory, as you can see today. So the sun's decided it wants to come out. I decided to film in here today because it was really overcast, but obviously now it's just decided to throw everything out of the window for me. So I'm going to carry on, and I apologise if I wash in and wash out of beautiful sunlight. We're just going to make of it what we can. Anyway, as I mentioned, this is a paid for pattern. I'm not going to go into too much details as to how it's constructed, but it is really simple. If you're new to knitting and you haven't tried a Stephen West pattern yet, then I would highly encourage you to do so. I think what I love about his patterns is that there really are no rules. If you want to use chunky yarn and you want to use weird and wonderful crazy yarns, then he really encourages that, and the patterns just work. I did go down a needle size to the last one that I did because I knew that some of the yarns that I was knitting together would form a chunky. For instance, this blue here in the middle. This is a DK and a fingering weight held double, so that's made it quite chunky. Some of the more unusual textured yarns that I've used do knit up quite chunky, although I found it really interesting how different they look in garter compared to stocking. So this is that lovely weird and wonderful yarn that I've shown you before in garter, but then when I used it down here in stocking stitch, you can see it works up really differently. I've loved using all these different yarns. I've used a chenille here. This is kind of like a fuzzy fibre that knits through, and I've held that double with a normal fingering weight yarn. If I've used any of the textured yarns, so any of the eyelash yarns, they've always been held double with a fingering weight yarn to just give it that little fuzzy look. So I'm absolutely loving this. By the time you see me next time, I will probably be on the sleeves. I'm not going to say I'll have finished it, but I will certainly be on the sleeves. I have got my next lot of yarns ready in here. What I tend to do is I keep all of my yarn and my jumper in my big sweater bag, but then I kind of work out what my next 3 or 4 colours are going to be, and then I put them into this little bag so that it's a little bit easier just to kind of grab what I want. So I'm going to go for this beigey eyelash yarn, and I'm going to hold it double with my other Kettle Yarn Company yarn. This is like a peachy sherbety colour. So I'm going to hold that double, and then I'm going to remove this eyelashy colour, do a few rows of just the sherbet. Then I'm going to do 2 rows of the gold, which I've done throughout the jumper, every sort of 5 or 6 colours, just to keep the divisions working through the jumper. And then I'm going to finish it with a few more rows just of this bluey DK. Again, it's going to be a bit heavier at the bottom. So I will be starting that Oh, I don't know. When will I be starting that? Probably tomorrow evening, I would think. I'm out with the girls from school tonight. So there shall be no knitting this evening. But yeah, that's my Enchanted Mesa. Really, really happy with how that's knitting up, and I can't wait to get that finished. I've also been working on another Stephen West. Where is it? Ah, here. Which is my exploration station. The words aren't working today. So this is also kept in one of my handmade bags. This is the Shawl size drawstring bag, and I am so pleased with this. I really am. It's a lovely size bag actually. Look, you can get 4 caked up skeins in the bottom of that, plus whatever project you're working on. Now I have completed the brioche section. I am so happy. It did take me a long time. If you've been watching, following me on Instagram, you'll have seen a couple of weeks ago I sat down with the pattern and my yarn and sort of dedicated an entire morning to doing the brioche. And I made a little swatch first, which I think I had to make about 3 or 4 times before I finally cracked it. And then I got on with the actual shawl, and I'm really pleased. It has worked out really well. So again, I want to be careful so this doesn't fall off the needles. This is the right side, so I'm going to cover that bit up for a minute so you can see my brioche. But I have done 1 row wrong. Now I don't actually know what I've done. I think I possibly did my slips, so my yarn overs, in the wrong direction, or I brought my yarn forward instead of back. I'm not sure, but you can see on the right side here, can you see a line running through here? And all that is yarns, like strands of yarn, of the grey yarn coming through. I'll try and show you, I'll spread it out. You might get a better view of it. There, you can see that stripe running through the bottom. And it is annoying, but do you know what? I really don't care. Everything else is fine. Ironically, from the wrong side, you can't notice it. It looks fine. But I really don't mind. It's not massively noticeable. I think once it's all blocked out and stretched down, there you go, you're not really going to see it. It doesn't massively scream at you. And if it does scream at you, well hey, I taught myself brioche by myself with no help. And I'm really pleased about that. What I was even more pleased about is that the stitch count was right. And there's a scary part in the pattern when you finish the brioche and it tells you how many stitches you should have. And you count them, and it should be something like 250 or something. And I had like 350 odd, and I was like, oh no, for goodness sake, I can't have increased my work that much. How is that possible? But then I realised that brioche, you knit 2 stitches together at the same time, or a yarn over and a stitch at the same time. So that yarn over and the stitch counted as one. And I'd been counting each strand of yarn. So the only thing I could do was go on to knit the next row, hope that it worked. If it did, I knew I had my stitch count right, and it did. So I've done my next row, and I am now about to put a lifeline in, sigh a really big sigh of relief, and move on to the slip stitch section. So I'm really chuffed. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as big as I was expecting it to be. I've seen some absolutely mammoth ones, but it's so hard to tell because obviously it just curls up. But you can see that's sort of all I've got. But we shall see. I'm still not particularly enamoured with the colours. I don't know that they really work all that well together. I've subsequently been watching Hannah from the Crafty Chat podcast, and she's been looking at yarns so that she can join in with me on my exploration station, and hers are beautiful. She's got some lovely minty greens, lilacs, beautiful dusky pinks with kind of greys and purples, and I think it's going to look absolutely stunning, and I'm quite jealous of her colours. It is frustrating because I spent so long looking for these colours and trying to find ones that worked well together. And I think the purple, the grey and the green do work well together, but actually when you knit the octopus garden and you knit it up, you can see it's actually far more muted. It's not quite as bright, but I don't care. I have knitted, or will have knitted, an exploration station. It was on my bucket list for the year. It has gone into and will go into the lovely Nikki from the Tea and Possibilities podcast's KAL, which is doing the Best Year Ever KAL. It was one of the 4 things that I promised myself I would do this year, and I am already halfway through it. So really, really pleased with that, and I will keep you posted on my progress. So another thing that I have dug back out that I've been working on, not massively, but I have been working on, is my lovely crochet shawl, which is the Contour Shawl by Joanne Scrace. I wanted something I could take along to swimming with me that was fairly mindless and easy. My jumper was too big, my shawl I was doing brioche. I finished my socks, so I dug this back out. So I've done another few rows on this. And I do really love it. I love how it's working up. It's really, really, really super squishy. It is taking forever because I am making it from a lace weight yarn. So if you do it in a double knit, it wouldn't take very long at all, or a fingering weight. But I am pleased with it. It's growing, and I'm just planning on keeping going until my yarn runs out, because I have no use for the rest of this yarn. So I'm not sticking to the pattern, I'm just keeping going and going and going with the rows. And we will see what size this gets to. So I will probably pick that up as my mindless knit over the next few weeks. Although my Enchanted Mesa has now got to the point where you can just knit and knit and knit on it, it's too big and too cumbersome to take out and about with me. So before I move on to the next part of the podcast, I am going to remove this jumper because I am boiling. There, that's better, although it's probably still too hot to be wearing a shawl. I should say that I'm wearing my hitchhiker shawl that my lovely mum knit for me, and this is from Little Boo Yarns in their fingering weight fruit salad colourway. So I hope this sun isn't bothering you too much, but I'm really enjoying it. It's absolutely lovely. So I'm going to move on to acquisitions and plans, and I'm going to start with a lovely little something that arrived in the post for me the other day, again from the lovely Hannah of the Corner of Craft. Now what I should probably do is take this out of its packet. I haven't even taken it out yet, but it will show off better to you if I take it out of the little baggie that it's arrived in. So she's been making some beautiful beaded stitch markers, and I asked her to make me a couple of custom ones in my colours. So she's made me this gorgeous little sloth with brown, pink and green flowers in her hair, and a gorgeous little brown, pink and green unicorn. So they are so pretty. I absolutely love them. Thank you, Hannah. Hannah has an Etsy shop. It's thecornerofcraft.etsy.com, and I know she's recently done a restock, and these are all hand stitched. She picks all these little glass beads up by hand and threads them all together, and it's just wow. So clever, Hannah. They are gorgeous, so I'm really looking forward to using these on my work. Now what she also did was included another little parcel, and this is for you guys. Now I haven't opened this yet. I wanted to save it and see what was inside. So let's open it together. But this is going to be a prize for my exploration Station KAL. Oh, that's gorgeous. I'm not going to take this out of the packaging, so I hope you can see it. But she's sent a gorgeous little bumblebee and a lovely little strawberry little stitch markers. They are so sweet. They're really, really dinky. Now I know Hannah has 2 types of stitch marker that she sells on her page. Her little dinky ones that are slightly cheaper, and then her larger ones, which these were £10 each. So they are absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to pop those into my prize stash box. And if you are joining in with our Exploration Station KAL, where you can find full details on the Ravelry page, then you could be in with a chance of winning these gorgeous little stitch markers, along with a few other fabulous bits and bobs. So the other thing that has arrived for me is a book that I ordered in the post. Now I am going to be doing some more book reviews on my YouTube channel. I've recently done one of a couple of fun parenting style books that I read, but I thought I should probably review some craft books. So I haven't even opened this yet, but it is the Crochet Therapy book. and it's a really lovely book. It's by Bethsan Corkhill, and it includes 20 mindful, relaxing and energizing projects to crochet. And it says, crochet therapy is a unique and inspiring craft book that will bring moments of calm to your everyday life. Bethsan has developed 10 therapeutic exercises designed to help focus your mind and relax you into a mindful state using the rhythmic skills and colourful patterns created by crochet. Whenever you need to feel refreshed, energised, relaxed or focused, be inspired by 20 crochet patterns that accompany these uplifting exercises. Projects include simple mandalas, colourful coasters, beautiful blankets, decorative bunting and more. So I'm going to sit down with a cup of tea a bit later on, have a look at this, and then I'm going to pick a project to try and give this a lovely review on the vlog at some point in the near future. The other thing that I've acquired is a ginormous recycling bag full to the gunnels of yarn. So one of my regulars was having a clear out, Wendy, thank you Wendy, and she dropped off this ginormous big bag to me, and it's full of all sorts of goodies. Now it was full of acrylic DK, which we've popped in the box to use for classes, acrylic chunky, which again we're going to use for classes, and then lots and lots of really weird and wonderful yarns, lots of different textured yarns and all sorts. Now, having worked on my Enchanted Mesa recently, I've really decided that I love using all of these really weird and wonderful yarns and working them together to see what they come up with, and what better to do with them than Stephen West projects. They're absolutely perfect. So I had every intention when I finished either my exploration station or my Enchanted Mesa of casting on my All About the Brioche shawl with my kettle yarns that I bought at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. That was next on my list. However, something has jumped the queue, and I have been hugely enabled by the lovely Molly from the Homespun House. Now, I've recently been watching her vlog, and she showed off her Stephen West Marled Magic shawl. Now, I have to admit, I'm not a fan of knit-alongs, mystery knit-alongs. I like to see a finished something and make a decision on whether I'm actually going to like it or not. So although the Marled Magic appealed to me because it was encouraging you to use lots of lovely mohair and unusual yarn, I was really nervous about it. And when I actually saw the finished projects, as people have started to finish them and show them off now on social media, I didn't know that I was really all that impressed. It did kind of look a bit thrown together, and I wasn't sure that I liked it. But Molly has completely and utterly transformed that opinion. If you're not sure whether you want to make a Marled Magic, go and watch Molly's latest vlog. I really like the way she's done it. She's basically spent the last few weeks filming little tidbits of her day, and she's edited it together in the form of a podcast, and it's a really nice way of showing off what she's been up to, and a really nice way of sharing her day to day with us. But she showed off her Marled Magic, and it just looked so cozy. It's more of a schlanket, a shawl come blanket, than a shawl or a scarf. It just looked lovely. She wrapped it right round herself. It was all snug. There was these beautiful brioche sections that are full of texture in themselves, but because they'd had loads of lovely mohair included, they were just fluffy and fuzzy and just, oh, I wanted it. I wanted to reach into my computer and steal her Marled Magic. So Molly, thank you for enabling me. But Wendy, thank you for supplying me my yarn. I have in that bag that you have given me everything I need to make the most amazing Marled Magic. So I'm going to show you my plans. So I have a huge basket here, and this is all things that I've gone through. So I've printed off the pattern. It's ready to go. You can see there is lots of it. So there's quite a few pages because it is in sections where they were released bit by bit. So you need to have at least 400 grams of a fingering weight yarn to use as your base. Now that can be a mixture of yarns, but your base colour. The whole shawl is knit double. So you're knitting a fingering weight and a mohair or a lace weight or something else alongside it. So I found in that bag these. Now I've got 2 balls of cream and 2 balls of pink. They don't look anything special. They're baby yarn. They're from the works, so they are £1.49 each. They've got the price on them. They're 100% acrylic, but they are so soft. There's a lovely halo on this yarn and it's beautifully soft. It's actually labelled up as a 3-ply DK, but it's really fine and it's no thicker than your average sock yarn or fingering weight yarn. So I've got 2 balls of cream and 2 balls of pink, and they're going to be the base of my Marled Magic. I've also found in there this one here, which is a 4-ply in this lovely kind of pinky raspberry colour, so I'll use that as well. So I've got 5 balls altogether of just my normal 4-ply. Again, much like my jumper, it's all wool, acrylic, silk, cashmere, weird and wonderful yarns mixed together. It will be a probably dry clean or a soak and dry in the air job. It's not going to be one for the washing machine or necessarily a wash. So to hold alongside those, there is 6 balls in that bag of this mohair. Now it's really unusual stuff. It doesn't actually say what size it is, but it does tell you to use a 5mm needle, so I would say it's probably a DK. But again, it's really quite thin. This is by Sunbeam Yarns. It's a vintage yarn and it's called the Sumatra, and it is machine washable. And these balls are 25 grams, and I've got 6 of these balls, so there's plenty of it. So the mohair I will knit along held double. There's also this big ball of beigey mohair. There's no label on this, so I have absolutely no idea what it is, but that's going to look really nice held double with the pinks or the creams. And then I basically dug into the rest of my stash. So there was also in the bag this lovely purple. This is a 4-ply, but as you may or may not be able to see, there's little sequins interspersed into the yarn. There was some lovely fuzzy stuff. I love fuzzy stuff in purples. And again, these always look brilliant held double with fingering weight, as you can see from my jumper. This lovely fuzzy stuff, which is really nice. And then I've got some minis. These 2 minis are my hand dyed by Kate minis, which I can use in there. And this mini was a swap mini from, I believe, Small Smiley, but I can't remember. I don't know what it is, but obviously I know it's fingering weight. I've got some of this, which is lovely. This is a King Cole yarn left over from a shawl that I crocheted my mum. And then last but not least, I've had this in my stash for ages. This is a kind of pink and gold eyelash yarn. Again, it's really fine, so it needs to be held double. And this is Serdar as well, and it's the Zanzibar fashion knitting. So from the outside, this might look like a ghastly basket of yuck to some of you, but when I have worked some Stephen West magic on it, I think it's going to be beautiful and I am going to love it. And the best thing is that only yesterday a new KAL was announced that I can join in with, that I'm really excited about. So not only is Hannah from the Crafty Chat podcast, that's the 3rd time I've mentioned you, Hannah. Gosh, not only is Hannah going to be knitting an Enchanted, an exploration station and joining in with my KAL, I'm now going to be joining in with her new KAL because we are both double dipping. She has just released a new KAL along with her friend Becky, Soprano Knits, and it is called the KeepKnittingKittenKAL. I think that's right. I'm going to double check. Yeah, the KeepKnittingKittenKAL. It is a Stephen West along, so you can knit any Stephen West pattern you like. It starts on the 1st of May and you have 2 months in which to finish your project. So I'm sorry all about the brioche shawl. You have jumped out of my queue. My Marled Magic has jumped straight in. My yarns are ready. My pattern is ready. And I've just got to finish one of my other projects before I allow myself to cast on. So I think that's probably going to be my jumper because I have a slightly less of a task with that. It's easy, I've done it before, I know where I'm at. It's mindless knitting, and once it's finished I can crack on with my Marled Magic shawl. So I'm dead chuffed about that. Also in Wendy's bag of bits and bobs was this Serdar yarn, Patterns yarn. It's right in front of me, it says it, Claire. Patterns yarn. It is a smoothie DK and it's variegated, but it is very, very fine, and it reminds me of the WI Women's Institute yarn that I used to test knit my first pair of 2 at a time socks. So it's a cotton DK. Is it cotton? Blah, blah, blah. No, it's 100% acrylic. DK random yarn, and I'm going to knit a pair of socks with it, but I'm only using it because I want to test knit and see if I can get a pair of socks the right size for my daughter, and I don't want to use expensive sock yarn to do that, so I'm just going to have a little play at making some socks to fit her. So I'll let you know how I get on with that. So that's all the actual knitting content for today, but I have got a few other exciting things that I want to tell you about. A few people that I've been watching and stuff that's going on, kind of all muddled together with a bit of general chit chat. So if you can hang around for another 5 minutes, that would be great. Firstly, I want to tell you about a couple of other podcasts that I've been watching. Now, the first one is a brand new podcast, and it is the Bee and Rose podcast, and it's been done by the lovely Faye. Now, she is an indie dyer and she is brand new to the podcasting community, so please do pop over and show her some love. I watched her first podcast the other night and she had me in absolute stitches from the get-go. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how she progresses in her podcasting career, and would like to extend a warm welcome to the podcasting community to you, Faye. The other podcast that I've just discovered is the Notorious podcast. Now, I've only watched one of these, but I decided straight away that I was going to go back to the beginning and watch from the beginning. So they started in March last year, so there is a year's worth of podcasts for me to get through. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm going to go back and start watching. I'm halfway through episode 1 now. I'm going to go right the way through and catch up, and then I'll report back a little bit later on in my next podcast or 2 and let you know what I've discovered along the way. But the girls at Notorious seem like a lot of fun, and the kind of guys and girls that I'd like to hang out with. So some of you may have gone and signed in last Friday to my shop update when I put lots more of my lovely project bags into my shop, and I must apologise. There was a big hiccup. We were due to publish the bags at 8 o'clock in the evening UK time, and I did just that. Unfortunately, somewhere in the deepest, darkest depths of the website, the page was limited as to how many listings it could show on that particular page. So although I had put on all 24 items, it was only showing 12 of them. So it would have appeared that many of the items that you were perhaps after weren't actually available in the shop, and many of you probably just gave up and went away. We did manage to fix it about 8:30, but by that time it was probably too late for many of you. So thank you if you did pop along and purchase a bag. They should be with you by now. They were posted out earlier on this week. But if you did miss out and you didn't get a chance to pick up the bag you wanted, you might actually find that it's still sitting in the shop waiting for you. So do pop back and have a look. I'll run the link along the bottom. There is still quite a few of my large sweater sized bags. There is a few of the small shawl sized drawstring bags. All of the sock zip bags, the little ones, sold out, but I do have one large zip bag, and there are still some tea bag holders in the shop. So do pop in and have a look, because they are there wanting to find new homes. Now, I've been experimenting this week with a new project, something to pop into the shop. I don't know about you, but when I sock knit, I'm absolutely fine now knitting, but when it comes to doing my toe and grafting the toe, it doesn't matter how many times I've done it, I still have to refer to my notebook to remind me of my little mantra for my Kitchener stitch. So I thought I would come up with some form of key fob or key ring that you could attach to your project bag with the Kitchener stitch on, so it would remind you how to do it. And I've been playing with shrink plastic. So this is a prototype. This is the first one at the moment, so I don't know how well this is going to show up for you, and I can't really see because it is super sunny in here, but you can see it says Kitchener stitch, and then you've got your front needle, knit off, purl on, your back needle, purl off, knit on, and it will have a little keyring attached to the hole up here. At the moment the colours aren't coming out quite right. When you do print off onto shrink plastic you have to reduce the colour intensity because as it shrinks it gets darker. So I did do that, which is a good job, otherwise you wouldn't have been able to see a thing. But I do think I need to reduce that a little bit more. So I'm going to play around with these a bit more, but I'm really happy with the initial design. Looking at size wise you can see it's kind of like 2/3 of a business card. It could go smaller, I think. But I'm not sure, so I'm going to have a play around with some more sizes, but once I've finished coming up with my final design I will pop those into the shop. But I think they'll be a really handy thing to just have attached to a project bag or throw on the floor so that you can remember how to kitchen stitch your toe. The other thing that I'm selling at the moment, if any of you are either wannabe podcasters or beginner podcasters and haven't yet got yourself a camera, is I am selling my Samsung NX Mini, my original podcasting camera. Now there is absolutely nothing wrong with that camera. In fact, it served me really well. I did some really great videos on it and I absolutely love it. But I was fortunate enough, my lovely daddy helped me upgrade to a Canon G7X, which I really wanted. And now that I have that, I have no need for my Samsung NX Mini anymore. Now they retail at about £330. I've hardly used it and it's currently on eBay. It has got a bid on it already. It is under the listing. My listing name is artyfartymack, so you can find me on eBay, and the auction ends on Sunday at midday-ish UK time. So if you are in the market for a new podcasting camera or want to buy a podcasting camera, I can highly recommend it, and it's pretty much as new. It's hardly been used and it's got all the bits and bobs with it, so it is an absolute bargain. So if you're interested, pop over to my eBay and add it to your watch list. So I have a super busy weekend planned. It's Friday afternoon now, and tomorrow we have our Grand Beautiful Things craft jumble sale. I had such a huge clear out of my studio over the Christmas period that I've ended up with so much crafty stuff that I need to get rid of. So we are popping a big giant gazebo up outside the studio, and all day tomorrow we have a jumble sale which we've advertised locally. So if you're in the Essex area between 10 and 4 tomorrow, which is Saturday the 29th of April, do come down to Beautiful Things headquarters. You can find all of the information about it on my Instagram and my Facebook page. Come down and grab a bargain. There is yarn, there is fabric, there's beads, there's buttons, there's jewellery making, card making, kids craft, kits, big remnants of fabric, threads, pins, needles, sewing equipment, sewing boxes, endless craft magazines, patterns, just everything you could possibly want. So do come down and grab a bargain. Everything must go, so it is all really cheap. So hopefully I will see some of you there. It would be lovely to meet some of you for the first time as well, and I can assure you it is worth the travel. We have a knit and crochet club all afternoon as well, so you're welcome to bring your knitting with you or your crochet with you and sit and share and enjoy a cuppa. All we ask, if you wish to do that, is a donation into our charity tin, and we'll be collecting, as always, for Mind and the mental health charity. So one of the last things to tell you about is that I have scheduled myself a craftcation. So one of the things I did at the beginning of this year was sit down and look at my goals for the year, and I wanted to make sure that I had time to enjoy crafts for me. I do an awful lot of crafting, but a lot of it is for work, and it's very easy when you teach sewing and crochet and everything else to start to find it a little bit of a chore. I know that's hard for you to understand if you're a crafter, how crafts could ever become a chore, but when you teach the same thing over and over again, it really can. It's also quite hard to find the time to learn something new, which is why the knitting has come into things over the last year or so. Knitting for me is a hobby. I don't teach it. We have a lovely knitting teacher who works for me, who comes to teach, and she teaches me. And I'm really just enjoying it as a hobby, but there are loads of other things that I would like to make and do and try. There's crochet skills and techniques that I'm yet to try. There's new products on the market. There's new techniques for dressmaking. Lots of different things that I'd like to try and potentially teach, but also just be able to improve myself and for my own personal self-development. That, and I do still find crafting a really lovely way to relax, and it is really important to take time for you and for yourselves. So the only way that I felt that I could do that was to actually schedule myself time in my diary for me. And we all know just a couple of hours here or there is nice, but it's not necessarily long enough to achieve anything. So I have blocked out 4 days in my diary, Monday through till Thursday, in a couple of weeks' time, where I will be on an official craftcation. I may go into my studio, but I probably won't. I will probably just do it from home. And in those 4 days, I will spend time trying new techniques, making clothes for me, getting some sewing done, generally making stuff. It has to be for me, and it has to be either to improve my own self-development and what I know, or it has to be just to make me happy. So I might make myself a new frock, and I might learn a new crochet technique. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do yet, but do watch this space because I will be vlogging my craftcation. So that's something for all of you, whether you watch me for knitting, crochet or sewing. So that's all from my podcast this week. I do have a few little sewing videos that I'm going to pop over the next few days, a couple of little crochet craft tutorials and odds and sods which will pop up on my channel over the next few weeks or so, and I'll be back with another podcast in a couple of weeks' time. Do remember to give me a thumbs up if you like the podcast, and please, if you haven't already, do subscribe to my channel. The other thing to notice is down there somewhere is a little bell. If you click that little bell, every time I upload a new video you'll receive an email notification or a notification on your phone if you use the YouTube app to let you know that I have uploaded a new video, so you won't miss out. In fact, I loved it yesterday. I uploaded a craft tutorial to my YouTube channel and I get a shout from upstairs that says, "Mummy, you've just put my school costume on the internet." So it's obviously apparent that my son has subscribed to my channel, and not only that, has chosen to be notified when I upload new videos. So that did make me chuckle. So I will say see you for now. I'll be back in a couple of weeks with another podcast. Thank you for watching. Bye.